Welcome to the August 9th meeting of the Northampton Township Planning Commission. Our chairman, Pat McGuigan, and vice chair Ed Engel are under the weather tonight and are not available, so they went to the bullpen and I got the call. But before we get started, let's go ahead and we'll stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for the men and women of the armed forces and our first responders. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good. Thank you. Tonight we have 3 agenda items. We've got the approval of the June 14th meeting minutes. We have consideration of a lot line change, 22-5 in Holland Estates. And the third one is the preliminary final plan of subdivision land development 21-6 at the intersection of Bristol Road and Churchville. Let's get started with the meeting minutes. Do we have a motion or any comments?
I have a comment.
Okay.
So I believe that the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors was incorrectly taken down. It should include in the last line that it is recommended that the waivers be granted as long as the applicant plants perimeter trees. So if you could make that correction.
So noted, and we'll make sure that Mike adjusts that in his final version of it. Motion to approve?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So passed. All right, the second item we have on our agenda is a lot line adjustment. Is there anybody here from the Holland Estates to just give us a quick, you can have a seat there, make sure your microphone is on, and just give us a real quick rundown as to why it is that you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. Good evening, Commission. Bryce McGuigan from Begley Carlin here on behalf of Holland Estates and John Capone, the owner of the property in question. Good evening. Thanks for having us here this evening. Very briefly, obviously the property is along Amity Way here in Northampton Township. There are 3 parcels at issue, and essentially what we're trying to do, this is a portion of a former 7-lot subdivision. And essentially on the plan, I appreciate you having it up there, the bottom, I actually came mildly prepared for once. Here. All right, so if you're looking at, oh, and of course it doesn't work on there. Never mind. That shows the, it's a buildable lot technically, but it has the retention basin for the whole subdivision. And essentially what this plan is, it adjusts the lot lines for the top parcel and the middle parcel. It gives them each a little bit more property, and then the bottom parcel is just going to be strictly the retention basin. So as a result of this, basically you lose one buildable lot. The retention basin is on a property all its own. It's still going to be owned by the homeowners association and still will service the entire subdivision, and essentially just gives the other 2 parcels a little bit more space. The reason that we're here before you, the reason why we want to do that is because the owner of the parcel all the way at the top, Mr. Capone, who also owns the remainder of Holland Estates. Right now, the way the home is built, it's basically at the lot limits with impervious and that sort of thing. He literally can't put a shed on the property as is. So this gives him a little bit of breathing space to put in some accessory structures such as that.
Okay.
And just to confirm, we've looked at the review letter prepared by Gilmore, the review letter prepared by Pannoni. There are no zoning comments or saldo comments in the Gilmore letter. The remaining comments are all will complies. There are 0 waivers associated with this proposed development and no improvements whatsoever, strictly a paper plan.
Okay, any comments, Craig, Amanda, anything that you want to bring up regarding this?
This is a fairly straightforward plan.
Anything from the commission? Nothing? Okay. Do we have a
I'll do it.
motion?
I move that we recommend to the Board of Supervisors approval of the Holland Estates Lot Line Change Plan LL 22-5, subject to compliance with the Gilmore Associates Review Letter dated August 1, 2022, and the Pannoni Associates Review Letter dated July 28, 2022, and the McMahon Associates Review Letter dated June 9, 2022. It also recommends that the requested waivers be granted.
Before, any comments from the folks here at all on this particular? Nothing? Okay. Motion is made. All in favor, say,
Was there a second?
oh, second, I'm sorry, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank you very much.
good to go.
all right, you're done.
All right. Our third one is the preliminary final plan of the subdivision land development for SLD 21-6 at the corner of Bristol and Churchville. And why don't you identify who you are, and so we know.
My name is John Richardson. I work for Dumac Engineering. I represent the applicant as their civil engineer.
Okay. And John, are you going to take us through the plan, or are you, okay.
I was going to say, I'm pulling double duty tonight. You know, you thought you were done with me. So, good evening again. Long time no see. Again, thank you again for having us here. Bryce McWigan, still from Begley, Carlin, and Mandio. This time representing Farlex Inc. with respect to the properties at the corner of Churchville Lane and Bristol Road. Just brief background here. I'm not sure if we have an existing features plan on the PDF.
Should be the next one.
If we can slide down the next image. Is that the next?
Nope, one more.
One more. Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
Is that it? All right, so essentially, right now, there are 3 parcels there, so they're all zoned R2. Together, the cumulative area is approximately 40,000 square feet. They've been vacant for quite some time. There's an existing patch of kind of deteriorating concrete, but they've been vacant for several decades now. Like I said, zoned R2, and what our plan is to basically reconfigure the parcels, because if you see it right now, there's a smaller parcel in the corner. There's another parcel that kind of in an L shape wraps around the first parcel. And there's a third parcel to the side along Churchville. And with the current configuration, it's really difficult to do almost anything with the first or the second lot. The third one's relatively normal, but with the first two, you really can't do much. In fact, the second parcel, I believe, is only 55 feet wide at its widest point. So what the plan is to reconfigure the lots and to put 3 homes on these 3 residential parcels. We were before the zoning hearing board back in August of last year. My, how time flies. And we received some relief for certain setback variances, together with some impervious surface, specifically related to Lot 1 and Lot 2, which, again, they're existing non-conforming small lots. We received that relief, and now we're here before you with respect to the remainder of the project. Obviously, in the intervening months and nearly a year, we've submitted land development applications with updated plans, and we're here before you to request recommended preliminary and final approval for the land development part of the application. Specifically, this is not a subdivision. There are already 3 existing lots, and we're just reconfiguring them in a way that is more practical and would blend with the community a bit more. During the zoning process, some neighbors came out to express some interest in the project. We talked with them, worked with them, and what we found here, and obviously, John will testify to some of the stormwater management aspects of the project. We feel we've landed on something that really works for the area, and that'll be a significant improvement to the vacant and deteriorating land that's there now. During the process, obviously, we've gotten some review letters from Gilmore, McMahon, and Pannoni. There are a somewhat large amount of waivers here at issue. There's 17 in total, both saldo and stormwater management. If the commission likes, myself and Mr. Richardson are more than prepared to go through those waivers individually, or if there are any particular areas of interest that the commission would prefer us to focus on, we'll do that as well. But obviously, we're prepared to proceed in whichever way the commission deems appropriate.
Yep, and we discussed that before, and there's a couple that we want to focus on relative to questions that some of the planning commission folks have, so.
Okay, perfect.
Anything else you want as part of your presentation? Any other?
I don't know, John, if you would go through some of the stormwater aspects of it, if that's appropriate, and then maybe we can focus in on some of the specific questions that the commission has, being as I'm sure everyone is aware of the general nuts and bolts.
But before you do, Amanda, is there any issues with the waivers that are asking for stormwater?
Obviously, the stormwater design is not fully completed at this time, so, we would be okay with the waivers being granted, subject to completion of the stormwater design, if there were any
So I
sort
don't think, is anybody interested in what the stormwater waivers are? And get to the meat of what your concern is?
I mean, considering that stormwater in that area on Bristol Road is an issue, the fact that we're reducing the required easement from 20 to 10 feet, like, is that going to impact any future stormwater management that PennDOT hopefully does to Bristol Road sometime in the near future if we're reducing that easement by 10 feet?
Well, 10-foot wide easement, it's pretty sufficient that you can put a massive pipe in and still have room. So
If I may, the 10-foot wide easement is back on the property. It's not like paralleling the PennDOT right-of-way or anything. It actually is, relatively speaking, perpendicular to the right-of-way.
Okay,
So it juts back into the private property.
okay.
This is the existing features plan. I don't know if, Alex, if you want to jump to, yeah, perfect. If you can see the easement is not particularly shown on this plan, but it would be basically behind the middle home and go out towards Bristol Road for a stormwater pipe.
Okay.
That's basically on 2 lots, so that's why the easement's required.
Okay.
Are there any issues with drainage? I mean, I don't know what's happening there now. I know you're at the bottom of 2 hills, or kind of at the bottom of 2 hills there. What's, and not to go through a full engineering analysis, but just what's going to be done to alleviate that or address it?
Sure. The drainage in the area, this is nearly the collection point, if you will. It drains behind the property, kind of like, but just behind our limit of disturbance, and it runs down towards Bristol Road. And it's not a swale, but it is a low-lying area. It doesn't collect it tightly, but it is a collection point. Once it hits Bristol Road, it kind of hooks a 90-degree bend and runs down Bristol Road towards the intersection. And as it's doing that, it runs directly on the edge of the pavement. It's a kind of a collection point there, right at the edge of the pavement. And there is there's 2 inlets at the intersection. All the drainage in the area comes to those 2 inlets. From those 2 inlets, it runs down Churchville, which turns into Bustleton, back behind the Churchville Inn, and discharges right before there's a Verizon building. It discharges right there into a swale. As part of our project, we'll be reducing the flows in that area, not substantially, but also as a proportion of the drainage area, even though our site's relatively minor. But we would be reducing those flows to some degree. And through consultation with PennDOT, they asked that we upgrade the swale at the Verizon building, which actually is not located in Northampton, it's actually located in Lower South. But they asked that we upgrade that swale a little bit. It's grown in with some vegetation, and there's a substantial amount of erosion. So what we would be doing is we would be removing the vegetation, we would be reconnecting the channel, reshaping it, and stabilizing with riprap. That's been at the request of PennDOT.
Is that on the other side of Bustleton from where the Verizon building is?
Correct.
Okay.
So with that being said, one of the issues that we're going to talk about is the curb. So with a curb that would run, adjacent to the site along the road, would that be a hindrance, or is PennDOT going to allow that, or does it alleviate?
With consultation with PennDOT, that issue has come up. And as you can see on the plan, we're actually proposing 3 inlets back behind Yevsha pavement. So as part of this project, what we'd be doing is we'd be shifting that concentrated flow right on the edge of the pavement, actually back into the site a little bit, and picking it up in those 3 inlets. As part of that, a curb would stop that transition from the pavement draining back into
Into
those
it,
inlets.
okay.
So in terms of drainage, it would actually be counterproductive.
Yeah. Just for information.
Okay.
Well, why don't we go down through the waivers? We looked at each one of them, and really the couple that we had, well, the waivers, and then we also have a question about the parking that we want to talk about. But I think they just addressed the curb issue. I don't know that we need to discuss that. Was there any discussion about fee in lieu of on the curb with anybody at the township at this point? Has that been brought up?
I am not sure,
Okay.
to put it candidly. Mr. Mike McGinnis from my office is primarily having discussions with Mike Solomon about that. And obviously, if that's something that the township insists upon, then we'll be more than
Well,
happy to pay
typically, and that's something that you would have to discuss with the supervisors, but typically sidewalks, curbs are required. A lot of times sidewalks and curbs are not installed, and a fee in lieu of is done instead. What that calculation is and what that number is, we don't know, other than we recommend a fee in lieu of, however that's negotiated.
Of course, and obviously, if that's one of the conditions, then we'll be more than happy to abide by that. And I'm sure Ms. Fuller and Mr. Richardson will be more than happy to hammer out the details of that specifically.
I think that really was all the only, the sidewalks and the curbs, the other waivers, we didn't have any issue with. We've seen those requests made before. But a number of us had questions, comments about how the back-to-back driveways are configured and are going to be usable. And does anybody want to open it with a question, or just let them describe how that's going to work?
Oh, from the drawings, it looks like you've got two cars with 4 feet in between them, back-to-back with 4 feet in between them. And so we were trying to look at this, is it not up?
And I'm just going to say, why don't you bring it up on?
Oh, okay. So our concern was that an engineering report
Sheet 2.
verifies.
It's, yeah, earlier. There you go.
Yeah, that one. Where we have two driveways, a shared driveway, which I guess in my experience has always caused problems. And so I'm hoping you have a really good agreement between the two neighbors on how that shared driveway will be maintained. But also, our concern is that the way the two garages look like they're right across from each other, then it looked like it was going to be very difficult for a car to turn around, and we were just hoping you would have an engineer, present a report showing that you could actually turn around if there's 4 cars there, like in the plan.
Well, what I will say to your first issue, I will make sure that there is an ironclad agreement in terms of the driveway, because my office will be drafting that ourselves. So that there will be no legal issues down the line if one of the future owners of one of the properties does not want to be a good neighbor and does not want to do what their legal obligation is. So we will ensure that legally there will be no issues and no headaches for either any of the future owners of the property or for the township moving forward.
Right.
As to the actual mechanics of this, I think I'll turn that over to John, who can kind of go through it a little bit and maybe provide some clarification, some clarity to the commission.
Okay.
I do agree, it's a little tight in that area. However, there is a couple mitigating factors. One, there are garages on both sides, so the cars are kind of shown as placeholders more than anything. It would be a garage on both sides. And I think you mentioned 4 feet. There is actually 42 feet between the two garages. So, I mean, is it a little on the smaller side? It is. However, we would not necessarily anticipate all 4 cars being there at once.
Oh, you haven't driven around the county.
Yeah, whether you anticipate it or
No
not,
one
it
parks
certainly
in
can
One in
happen.
100 that park their cars inside the garage, so it's almost going to be automatic that they're going to be parking in the driveway.
Because Toll Brothers built a development with 4-car garages, and no one parks their car in their 4-car garages. And I'm going, are you kidding me? They're all, because they want their pickup truck in front. And I'm going, well, anyway, so
We can definitely look at offsetting the garages within the structures a little bit to provide a little more room.
That's actually what we discussed prior to the meeting, that
Yeah.
if it was staggered, then even if they parked in the garages, the way it's presented on the plan, you still couldn't make a turnout. There still didn't look like there was, if there were two cars parked on the other side, that it would be very difficult to turn out to the street.
So if you could maybe look into it and
Yeah.
also provide turning templates, that would probably solve a lot of the
Either there's enough
questions.
room or it can be staggered, so
Right.
there's
Is there
a
a
turn.
possibility of staggering them? I mean, has that been looked at, discussed in any way?
We could stagger it potentially.
Well, listen, if you took the house itself, the model, and just flipped it,
Yeah.
right, it's the same house except opposite,
Right.
then you'd have the garages on the opposite side.
Right. Another option.
Throw a turning radius, auto turn on it, and you're good to go.
Right.
What was the
Another
other
option
option?
would be to stagger it, but then also perhaps enlarge the area or something, provide a little more maneuverability. And we're perfectly.
That's more impervious, and you'd have to change your stormwater calcs. You don't want to do that.
We'd also need more zoning relief.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But we could
Which-
do something like pervious pavement.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we understand it's a little on the tighter side, and obviously, as we move forward, that's definitely something that we'll be more than happy to consider discussing with
Yeah.
the township.
I mean, it's not even really, they're back to back, as you're backing out. But I was kind of looking at it too, pulling into those driveways on the radius that you have, you know what I mean? So if you're coming up the driveway and you want to make the right turn into that driveway, into the first spot, that's going to be tight. If you have a car parked on the right, you're coming up the driveway and you want to get in the left spot, that's going to be a tight maneuver.
We can definitely look at it.
Just take a look at it.
Do some
You
auto
can get it to work.
To try to, actually model.
Okay.
Andrew, anything else on the parking issue?
Not on the parking, no.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to bring up on?
I have a question. This used to be a gas station
I
a long time ago.
believe so, but.
Like, have there ever been soil testing to make sure that this wasn't like, there's no contamination from it being a service center at some point?
I've heard that it was both a service station, but then I've heard other people say, no, it was actually like a printing area or like a silk screening press or something.
It seemed to,
Is there?
I mean, I've lived here my whole life. I could have sworn that there were gas station pumps at some point there. I just would hate for you to go through, build these houses, and people move in and, like, the soil's contaminated. I just don't want to see that happen. Is it possible we get that tested?
I mean,
Well, first thing you do is just do research to see if you have Act 2 clearance on the site.
yeah, I think that's an issue we can definitely look into. Obviously, I don't, at this point, there's no, there's no plans to conduct full-fledged testing.
Okay.
However, it's, again, an issue that we can look into just to make sure, because obviously, we're building these homes.
Right.
It's in our best interest, too, to make sure that there is not some sort of an issue here that could impact our ownership of the property or moving forward, somebody purchasing it. I also do seller's disclosure litigation as a free advertisement, and
Yeah.
nobody wants to deal with that. So I think it's in everyone's collective interest to ensure there's not an issue.
Right.
So it's definitely something that, moving on from today, we'll look at, and if we see any potential flags, then obviously we'll investigate that more deeply.
I mean, with all the PFOA and PFOS stuff that was going on a couple years ago, it's sort of something that comes up. And
It's a hot button.
Yeah, of course, I understand, and obviously that's something with, we'll look into it to cover everyone's, double check, dot our i's, cross our t's.
Possible when they pull up that pad that there could be fuel tanks under there, or something like that.
Well, obviously, in that case, we will definitely have to do some
Absolutely.
testing.
Has to be mitigated.
But yeah, it's definitely something that, obviously, as we move forward, we'll address.
What's even more scary than the gas station is a print shop.
The print shop could be.
You should have stuck with gas station.
Any other comments from anybody on the planning commission? Any comments from the public at all? Anybody want to step up and mention anything? Ask any questions?
I think everyone in the public is, we got our realtor there, we got our builder there.
These are the good guys, huh?
Oh, yeah, so we're all here in case the commission has any further questions about any ancillary issues.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't think any neighbors here tonight, no.
Okay. Do we have a motion then?
Sure. So at this point, it looks like we don't have, that we're just going to recommend that you prepare, prepare some kind of engineering documentation to demonstrate that the residents' cars can adequately turn around, and that you're going to deal with the staff on a fee in lieu of, for sidewalks and trees and curb. And you're going to research the previous occupancy. So those are just kind of caveats that we want. But otherwise, at this point, I move that we recommend that the Board of Supervisors approve the Fairfax, Inc. preliminary final plan of subdivision and land development, subject to the compliance with the Gilmore Associates review letter dated July 22, 2022, and the Peroni Associates review letter dated July 13, 2022, and the McMahon Associates review letter dated July 18, 2022. It's also recommended that the requested waivers be granted.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business by the Planning Commission tonight? No? Nope. Adjourned.